Well, Invesco officially taking over management of Superstate's flagship Tokenized U.S. Treasury fund, and this move puts Invesco squarely in the $12 billion tokenized Treasury market. With blockchain rails offering near instant settlement and round-the-clock access, this partnership marks a massive shift in how institutional money moves. Well, joining us live here to break this down is Kathleen Wrynn, Global Head of Digital Assets for Invesco, and Robert Leshner, CEO and co-founder of Superstate. Kathleen, Robert, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Remy.
Well, first and foremost, Kathleen, I do want to start out with you and ask you about this partnership. Why now in terms of timing?
Yeah, we see tokenization as a structural shift in how asset managers operate over time, and so the ability to partner with Superstate to take over their tokenized U.S. Treasuries fund is incredibly exciting as a way to get more comfortable operating tokenized funds, leveraging their leading on-chain infrastructure and leveraging our really investment management expertise for many decades.
And Robert, I do want to move on to you. So tell us what this partnership means for Superstate.
Yeah, this partnership is really significant because it's the first independent asset manager. Invesco's massive, successful, has an incredible track record on the Superstate platform. We started off by launching our own proprietary products. This is really the beginning of a shift from Superstate testing the tokenization process with our own products to working with the world's best asset managers. And so this is really Superstate moving from a in-house model to a partner model.
And speaking of which, Kathleen, I do want to ask you how managing a fund on blockchain rails differs from what you're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, that's the great part about partnering with Superstate to still leverage their on-chain infrastructure. We get to do what we continue to do, which is investment management, and then also be able to work on our kind of product management and risk management to see how we can implement new product features going over time on kind of institutional grade offerings.
And Robert, I do want to ask you, why Invesco for this partnership?
Yeah, we've been incredibly selective. We've diligenced all of the world's best asset managers, and Invesco really shined for us because of a couple things. One is their track record, but second is their desire, and thanks to Kathleen for this, to really push into using blockchains and tokenized infrastructure to grow their business. And so, for us, it's really a perfect, partnership because, it doesn't stop with USTB. USTB, $1 billion tokenized treasury product, is the ability for both of us to work together and learn from, sharing responsibility for, $1 billion product.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we've been hearing about tokenized securities not just in 2026, but also last year. And as we continue to hear about partnerships, Kathleen, I do want to ask you, how does this early operational experience actually set up the long-term ambition for scaling tokenized offerings here?
Yeah, so this is a strategic priority for the firm, tokenization. I think thinking of our exchange-traded products, they are half our current market cap currently. We're the fourth largest ETF issuer globally, so very important that we are at the top of the tokenized securities evolution.
Yeah, and Robert, for viewers out there who may be familiar with Superstate and they're wondering what this means going forward, what would you say to them?
Yeah, this is, really the closing of the very first inning of tokenization and the beginning of the second one. It's still very early, but we're starting to see, important asset managers, exploring how to use tokenization for funds to come on chain. So they can move faster, they can settle faster, they can be open to more investors globally, they can work 24/7, they can be programmable, and, we can transform the way investment management works from the ground up.
And both of you mentioned this is just the beginning, so what does this mean going forward?
Yeah, I think it's an evolution, and this is going to take time, and so we're looking forward to collaborating to really leverage on-chain infrastructure to provide new product features and net new utility for our clients, because this is going to take time to create new business models that can operate on blockchain rails.
Yeah, and finally, before I let both of you go, we are kicking off Q2 2026, and although we're seeing a crypto winter here, there's a lot of focus on the institutionalization when it comes to digital assets. So Kathleen, first starting with you, what are trends that you're watching and what are your expectations for the rest of this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure who coined it, but they're saying the crypto winter is now the stablecoin summer, where really we're just seeing incredible adoption from institutional collaborating both asset managers, banks across the board looking to do new partnerships. Really, we see this as an infrastructure change going forward, a longer term.
And Robert, what about for you?
Well, instead of calling it stablecoin summer, I'm going to call it tokenized security summer. But it's not cold at all. I mean, things are heating up very quickly. You see that with Invesco coming into the market in the U.S. in a big way. There's going to be other asset managers, trying to break into this market as well. I think we're really at the beginning of, most funds, most assets migrating on chain because they're more useful.
Yeah, and as we look ahead to not just Q2, but also beyond, we continue to watch what's coming out of the nation's capital in terms of the regulatory progress, because we're all watching to see what happens in terms of legislation. But from an innovation standpoint, what do you think is most important moving forward?
Yeah, well, we already have all the raw ingredients in Washington, right? So we have an SEC that's focused on enabling companies to leverage this new technology. We have a Congress that's on the cusp of passing the Clarity Act. We'll see. But we have all the raw ingredients. There's a tailwind, right? Historically, we've had some headwinds, we've had some ups and downs, but right now, squarely Washington is behind, America using blockchain to make financial products and markets better. And so I'm bullish.
Yes. And regulatory clarity is absolutely critical because we can operate in gray areas, and so that's why we're very excited for what's to hopefully come going forward.
Well, Kathleen, as well as Robert, it was great having you join us today. Thank you so much, and we hope to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.